By 6:45 that evening, I'd already decided the woman was either serious, mad, or too rich to know the difference, and since her shoes were plain black pumps with sensible heels, I'd crossed off the third possibility. She had arrived at 6:30, exactly in the interval when Nero Wolfe prefers the world to keep its distance from West 35th Street, and when Fritz is in a state of sacred attention to sauces. Any caller, then, unless bleeding freely or carrying a signed confession, starts with two demerits. I had opened the door expecting a messenger or a fool, and found a woman of perhaps 35, medium height, dark blue coat, no jewelry, except a narrow gold watch, and a face that had trained itself to quiet without quite making it. Her eyes were grey, direct, and tired in a way that made me think of someone who had spent the day arguing with people she despised, and had won only half the points. She asked for Nero Wolfe as if she had every right to ask for him, and none at all to be kept waiting. I told her his time was not available for casual distribution. She said, "Tell him Clara Vane is here, and that if he refuses to see me, I may not be alive tomorrow. That will get you into the front hall. It may also get the door shut in your face, depending on Wolfe's digestion, but it gets you one step forward." I parked her in the office, went into the old man, and delivered the message while he sat in his chair, with a book open on his lap and his lips arranged in the shape they take when humanity has again failed him. "No," he said. She says she may not be alive tomorrow. Many people may not be alive tomorrow. I cannot undertake responsibility for them all. She gave a name, Clara Vane. That did it, though not in any way that would have encouraged a betting man. Wolfe's eyes, which had been resting half-closed, opened the rest of the way. He put a finger in the book to mark his place and looked at me as if I had smuggled a cobra into the room. "Bring her." When I returned to the office, she was standing by the globe, not turning it, just looking at South America as if it owed her money. She came in without a flutter and took the red leather chair across from Wolfe. I stayed by my desk with a notebook because when Wolfe is surprised, he likes witnesses, especially paid ones. He inclined his head. "Your name is familiar, as you were once associated with the Lido Gallery." "I owned it," she said, "until last winter." "Indeed? Then you are not without resources. Why come here in melodrama?" She gave him a look that would have peeled paint from cheap furniture. "Because melodrama is only reality with witnesses. I came because a woman disappeared during supper, because I am expected to lie about it, and because your name was mentioned by someone who is now dead." Wolfe's brows went up a fraction. "Mine too." She continued before either of us could speak. 3 nights ago, I attended a private dinner at the home of Julian Kellum on East 63rd Street. There were 6 guests, not counting Kellum and the servants. One of them was Evelyn Drew. She left the table between the fish and the roast and never returned. I said, people do that, usually because of boredom. She did not go home. She did not telephone anyone. Her handbag remained on her chair. Her wrap remained in the hall closet. Mr. Kellum informed us that she had been called away on a personal emergency. I knew that was false because I'd seen him, 10 minutes earlier, pass her a folded note beneath the table. Wolfe shut the book. That is as close as he comes to rolling up his sleeves. "Why?" he asked. "Have you delayed 3 days?" "Because yesterday morning a man named Bernard Hest told me to forget I had seen anything unusual. He said Miss Drew had chosen to vanish, and that curiosity would be expensive. An hour later, he was struck by a delivery truck on 9th Avenue. The police called it accidental. Before noon, I received a note with no signature. It said, 'If you value your reputation, keep supper where it belongs.' I said, 'That's not poetry, but it tries.' She ignored me. This afternoon, my apartment was entered while I was out. Nothing was taken. My desk had been opened, and one drawer left half an inch ajar. I had told no one I meant to come here. Nevertheless, 10 minutes after I left my building, a man in a brown hat began following me. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Did you lose him?" No, I let him follow me to your door. That annoyed me. I'd half a mind to go back out and see whether Brown Hat was still admiring the stoop, but Wolfe spoke first. Why should this matter to you? What is Evelyn Drew to you? For the first time, Clara Vane hesitated. She put both hands on the arms of the chair and held them there. She was to marry my brother. Was to. She ended the engagement a month ago. He shot himself 10 days later. The room got quieter. From the kitchen came a faint sound of metal touching china, and from upstairs nothing at all, which in the brownstone can be louder than a yell. Wolfe said very softly, "And you think Miss Drew vanished because of your brother?" I think she knew why he died. I think someone at that table knew it too, and I think if I do nothing, I will be the next person told to forget. Wolfe closed his eyes. When he opened them, he looked not at her, but at me. Archie, inspect the street. I went out through the front hall without hurry, because hurry makes you easier to watch, and stepped onto the stoop with the kind of expression that suggests a man is thinking about nothing more complicated than whether he prefers cigars before or after dinner. And the air had that early evening thickness New York gets when the day hasn't quite admitted it's over, and the streetlights were just beginning to decide they had a purpose. Brown Hat was there. He was leaning against a parked sedan across the street, not looking at the house, but not looking away from it either. He had the kind of face that dissolves in a crowd. Medium everything, with a jaw that had tried once to be firm and given it up as unnecessary effort. The hat was brown as advertised, and so was his coat. He held a cigarette he wasn't smoking. I stood there long enough to make it clear I had seen him, then came down the steps and crossed the street. He watched me come, but he didn't move. "Evening," I said. He nodded. "Sure. You waiting for someone?" "No." "That's efficient," I told him. "Most people who aren't waiting for someone manage it somewhere else." He gave a small smile, polite and empty. "Nice neighborhood." "It has its moments. You like the view of this particular house?" "I like all houses." "That must keep you busy." We stood there for a second, measuring each other in the way that doesn't show on scales. He had steady eyes, and he wasn't nervous, which meant either he was good or he didn't think he had anything to worry about. I let my gaze drift to the car he was leaning on. It wasn't his. Too clean for the neighborhood and no dust on the fenders. "Mind if I ask your name?" I said. "Yes." "Do you mind answering anyway?" "Yes." I grinned at him. "You're consistent. That's a virtue. Let me offer you a piece of advice. If you're here to watch the house, you might try walking past it once in a while. Standing still makes you memorable, and you don't have the face for it." "Thanks," he said, still polite. I shrugged and turned away, giving him my back, which is sometimes a way of seeing more than you can face on. He didn't follow me. He stayed where he was, which told me two things. He wasn't interested in me, and he was very interested in someone inside. When I got back to the office, Clara Vane had not moved from the red chair. Wolfe had not moved from his. That was as it should be. Any deviation would have meant the world was ending. "There is a man across the street," I said. "Brown hat, brown coat, average ambition. He admits to liking houses in general, and ours in particular. He declines to give his name." Wolfe grunted. "Is he competent?" "Hard to say. He didn't fidget. He didn't pretend to be anything else. But he's either careful or he's been told not to improvise." Clara Vane said, "He followed me from Lexington." "Then he is at least diligent," Wolfe said. "Archie, telephone Mr. Panzer." I went to the phone and dialed Saul's number from memory. He answered on the third ring, and I told him we had a watcher on 35th Street and might want another pair of eyes. He said he would be there in 20 minutes, which for Saul can mean anything from 10 to 30, but usually lands on 15. When I hung up, Wolfe was looking at Clara Vane as if she were a document he had not yet decided to file or burn. "Miss Vane," he said, You have described an incident of disappearance, a subsequent attempt at intimidation, and the death of a man who advised you to remain silent. You have not yet told me why you believe I should involve myself." She met his gaze without flinching. "Because you will not be impressed, intimidated, or bought. Because you will ask questions other people avoid, and because if I go to the police, I will be told that Miss Drew left of her own accord, and that I am indulging in grief." "You may be indulging in grief." "I am," she said. "That does not make me wrong." I liked that answer. Wolfe did not show whether he liked it, but he did not dismiss it. "List the guests," he said. She did, without consulting notes. Julian Kelm, the host. He finances exhibitions and buys influence with the same hand. Bernard Hest, who is now dead, was his legal advisor. Lydia Kelm, his sister, who manages his household and his temper. Martin Rourke, a critic with a reputation for destroying artists and then dining with them. Dr. Stephen Ives, a psychiatrist who collects patrons the way other men collect stamps. And myself. And Miss Drew. Yes. Describe the dinner. "Civil," she said. "Too civil. Conversation that never settled. Jokes that never landed. Everyone watching everyone else to see how far they could go without saying anything." Mr. Kelm was attentive to Miss Drew in a way that was almost respectful. "Mr. Hest spoke to me about contracts I had no intention of signing. Dr. Ives asked questions that were not questions. Mr. Rourke drank too much and pretended it was research. Lydia Kelm said very little." "And the note?" Wolfe asked. "I saw it only for an instant. Mr. Kelm folded it small and passed it with his napkin. Miss Drew read it, looked at him, and then excused herself." "Did anyone else observe this?" "I do not know. No one acknowledged it." "And no one followed her?" "No." Wolfe made a small sound in his throat that might have been irritation or interest. "You remained?" "Yes." "Why?" She took a breath. "Because I wanted to see what would happen next." "And what happened next?" "Nothing. We finished the course. Mr. Kelm apologized for the interruption and said Miss Drew had been called away. We pretended to believe him. After dessert, we left. I said, 'And 3 days later, you come here with a shadow on your heels.'" "Yes." Wolfe closed his eyes again, not in dismissal but in calculation. "Archie, when Mr. Panzer arrives, he will attend to the gentleman across the street. You will remain here. Miss Vane, you will dine with us." She blinked. "I didn't come for dinner." "No," Wolfe said. "You came for protection. You will have it here for the next 2 hours, and I will have the advantage of observing you in a civilized context. It is mutually beneficial." I said, "Fritz will be thrilled." Wolfe ignored me. "After dinner, we will consider whether your problem merits my attention." Clara Vane leaned back in the chair and, for the first time, allowed something like relief to touch her face. Not much, but enough to count. From the front came the sound of the bell. I went to answer it, expecting Saul, and found instead a uniformed messenger holding an envelope with no return address. "Delivery for Miss Vane," he said. I took it, tipped him, and closed the door. When I brought it into the office, Clara Vane looked at it as if it might explode, which is never a bad instinct. "Son, open it," Wolfe said. She did, carefully, and drew out a single sheet of paper. Her eyes moved across it once, then again, slower. The color left her face in stages. "Well?" I said. She handed it to me. It read, in neat, deliberate handwriting, "You should not have come. The next absence will be permanent." I read it twice, partly to make sure the handwriting didn't improve on second inspection, and partly because threats delivered in neat script always deserve a second look. They show a kind of pride that sloppy ones don't. "Economical," I said. "No wasted ink." Wolfe extended his hand. I gave him the paper, and he studied it with the expression he usually reserves for a menu that has disappointed him. "Miss Vane," he said, Have you retained any correspondence from Mr. Kelm or Mr. Hest? Yes. Does this resemble their hand? No. Mr. Hest wrote like a clerk, tight and cramped. Mr. Kelm uses a secretary for anything longer than his name. Then we have an anonymous author with a taste for symmetry. Wolfe passed the paper back to me. Archie, preserve that. I slipped it into an envelope from my desk and made a note. Clara Vane was watching Wolfe as if she were trying to read a verdict before it was announced. You see, she said, they know where I am. They know you have acted, Wolfe corrected. Knowledge of your destination may be coincidence or design. We will not assume intelligence where habit will suffice. The bell rang again. This time it was Saul Panzer, hat tilted back, eyes already taking inventory before he crossed the threshold. I filled him in with a nod toward the office and a quick whisper about Brown Hat across the street. And Saul listened without comment, which is one of his virtues, and went out again as quietly as he had come in. If the man outside had been attentive before, he was about to have his attention educated. When I returned to the office, Fritz was hovering at the door with a look that says he has reached the point where art cannot be postponed for conversation. Dinner is served, he announced. Wolfe rose, which meant the matter had advanced to a stage where nourishment was required. He gestured to Clara Vane. You will join us. She stood, hesitated only a fraction, and followed. I took my usual place, watching her as much as the food because Wolfe had not invited her for her appetite. Dinner at the brownstone is not an event, it is a discipline. Fritz began with a clear consommé that could have convinced a skeptic, and followed by trout that had been treated with more respect than most people receive in a lifetime. Wolfe ate with concentration. I ate with appreciation. Clara Vane ate because she understood refusal would be an argument she would lose. For a while, there was only the business of forks and plates. Then Wolfe said, without looking up, Miss Vane, you said your brother shot himself. Yes. Where? In his apartment, on West End Avenue. Was there a note? Yes. It said only that he had made an error he could not repair. Did you believe that? No. Why not? She set down her fork. Because he was not a man who believed in irreparable errors. He believed in correcting them, loudly if necessary. Was he acquainted with Mr. Kelm? Yes. They had met several times. My brother had invested in one of Kelm's exhibitions. And with Miss Drew? They were engaged for 6 months. Did he confide in you regarding the termination of that engagement? He said she had discovered something about him. He would not say what. Wolfe took a sip of wine. And you did not press him? I did. He laughed at me. That was unwise of him, Wolfe murmured. I said, people who laugh at family usually pay for it. Clara Vane gave me a brief glance that might have been agreement or warning. Wolfe continued, Dr. Ives, the psychiatrist. What is his connection to this circle? He advises Mr. Kelm on certain acquisitions. He also saw my brother once, and she professionally. Once, so far as I know. Did your brother speak of that visit? He said the doctor was interested in things that had not been offered. Wolfe's lips pressed together. Ambiguous. That is what he intended, she said. We finished the fish. Fritz brought the roast, and the conversation paused again while knives did their work. Outside somewhere, a car horn sounded and stopped. Inside, the house held its own silence. After the plates were cleared and coffee appeared, Wolfe leaned back and looked at Clara Vane directly. You have come to me with a disappearance that may be voluntary, a death that may be unrelated, and a threat that may be theatrical. You have also provided a list of individuals whose interests intersect in ways that are not yet defined. Why should I not decline? Because, she said, if you decline, and I will continue, and I will do it badly. That is likely. And if I do it badly, I will make mistakes, And if I make mistakes, whoever is responsible will have an easier time ensuring that I stop. That is also likely. She held his gaze. If you take the case, you will control it. If you control it, you will see what I cannot. And if you see it, you will not ignore it. Wolfe regarded her for a long moment. I could almost hear the machinery in his head aligning itself with or against the idea of inconvenience. Archie, he said finally, you will visit Mr. Kelm in the morning. You will express my interest in the circumstances of Miss Drew's departure and request his cooperation. Request, I said. Not demand. We are not yet in a position to demand. Pity. He ignored me. You will also obtain any available information on on Ives, Mr. Rourke, and Mrs. Kelm. Discreetly. Discreet is my middle name. It is not. No, but it could be. Wolfe turned back to Clara Vane. I will accept your retainer. You will remain here tonight. She stiffened. I have a home. You have a home that has been entered without your consent. You have been followed. You have received a threat within minutes of your arrival. If you leave, you will do so under observation. If you remain, you will be under mine. She hesitated, then nodded. Very well. Good. Archie will arrange a room. I said, we have a spare. It doesn't come with a view, but it does come with locks. Wolfe closed his eyes again. The decision made. Tomorrow we begin. From the street came the faint sound of footsteps approaching the house, then stopping. I went to the window and looked out. The man in the brown hat was gone. Saul Panzer was leaning against the same car, lighting a cigarette he intended to smoke. Saul came in without knocking, which is his privilege when he earns it, and brushed a trace of ash from his sleeve as if the street had tried to leave a fingerprint on him and failed. He's gone, I said. He's gone, Saul agreed. Not in a hurry. Walked east, turned the corner, got into a taxi he didn't hail. Someone else did that for him. Description? Wolfe asked without opening his eyes. Driver was a driver. Passenger was the man we saw. No exchange on the curb. The cab had a dent on the rear fender, right side, and a sticker half torn off the windshield. I got the medallion number. Good. You will trace it. Saul nodded. I'll start now. Also, Wolfe said, now you will ascertain whether Miss Vane's residence has been observed tonight and by whom. Saul's eyes flicked to Clara Vane and back. All right. He left as quietly as he had come. I closed the door and turned to Wolfe. We've been noticed, I said. We have been acknowledged, Wolfe corrected. There is a difference. Noticing is passive. Acknowledgement implies response. Clara Vane had not moved from her chair. The coffee sat untouched in front of her. They sent the note here, she said. Within minutes. That isn't habit. No, Wolfe said. It suggests proximity or preparation. Archie, the envelope. I fetched it and handed it over. Plain, unremarkable. The sort you can buy by the hundred and forget by the dozen. Wolfe examined the flap, the crease, the edge where it had been opened. No postmark, he said. Hand delivered. The messenger? Uniform, I said. Standard service. He didn't know anything except the address and the name. You tipped him. I did. Good. Generosity encourages memory. Tomorrow you will revisit him. Add it to the list. Clara Vane spoke again, quieter now. You think someone was waiting outside with the note? I think, Wolfe said, that someone anticipated your action and prepared a response. Whether that response was stationed outside or dispatched upon confirmation is a question for later. For now, you will retire. Archie will show you the room. She stood, not arguing, which told me she was either exhausted or convinced, and I took her upstairs. The spare room was as advertised. Bed, dresser, chair, window that looked at a brick wall with no personality. I checked the lock, showed her the bell pull. and pointed out that Fritz would bring breakfast whether she wanted it or not. "At what hour?" she asked. "Too early if you're sensible. Too late if you're Wolfe." She almost smiled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We haven't done anything." "You have," she said. "You've made it less likely that I'll disappear." "That's the plan," I said, and left her to it. Back downstairs, Wolfe had resumed his chair and his book, which meant he was not reading it. "Report," he said without looking up. "Room secured. Guest cooperative. No signs of immediate hysteria." "Good. Sit." I sat. "Summarize," he said. "Woman vanishes from dinner. Host passes note. No one follows. 3 days later, a lawyer who advises silence is dead under a truck. Our client is warned twice and followed here. A second warning arrives by hand within minutes of her arrival. And suspects include a financier with a taste for control, his quiet sister, a critic who drinks for research, and a psychiatrist who collects secrets. Also a missing woman who may know why a man shot himself after breaking an engagement. Wolfe opened one eye. And if it's a game, it's one with rules we don't know yet. "It is always a game," Wolfe said. "The question is whether the rules are invented or discovered. You have a preference?" "I have an appetite for both." I leaned back. "Where do we start?" "Where we are," he said, "with the only fixed point, the dinner. You will reconstruct it. Time, seating, sequence, conversation, interruptions, every detail Miss Vane can recall. That's a lot of memory. Then you will assist her memory. But people remember more when they are told what they remember. That sounds like a trick. It is an application." I made a note. "And Saul will bring us the movement of the watcher. If that man is a professional, he will have a pattern. If he is an amateur, he will have a mistake. Either will be useful." "And the dead lawyer?" "We will obtain the police report. You will speak to the precinct in the morning. You will be agreeable and persistent." "I'm always agreeable." "You are persistent," Wolfe said. "The rest is negotiable." I grinned. "You wound me." "Not sufficiently," he said. The house settled into its night rhythm. Fritz cleared away the last of the cups. The city outside adjusted its noise to a lower register. Somewhere upstairs, a floorboard gave a small complaint as Clara Vane moved, then was still. At 10, the phone rang, and I answered it. "Goodwin." "Panzer," Saul said. "The cab is owned by a company on 10th Avenue. The medallion is clean. The driver's name is Larkin. He says he picked up a fare at 35th and 8th. The fare got in, said East 63rd, and paid in cash. No conversation. He dropped him at the corner. Anyone waiting there? He didn't notice. That doesn't mean no. Time? 7:22. I looked at the clock. That fit too neatly. Anything on Vane's place? 2 men, different shifts, one in the afternoon, one after dark. They didn't try to go in, just watched. Description: afternoon man tall, light coat, walked a beat like he was counting steps. Night man heavier, stood in doorways, both gone now. Professional: afternoon maybe. Night less so. Thanks. I hung up and relayed it. Wolfe listened without interruption. East 63rd, he said. He returns to the scene. That suggests either confidence or necessity. Or habit, I said. Habit is a form of confidence, Wolfe replied. Archie, you will call Mr. Kelm now. At this hour? At this hour. You will inform him that I am aware of Miss Drew's disappearance at his table and that I will visit him in the morning. Observe his reaction. Over the phone? Tone is informative. I dialed the number Clara Vane had provided. It rang twice, then a voice answered, smooth and controlled. Kelm. Mr. Kelm, this is Archie Goodwin, calling on behalf of Nero Wolfe. A pause. Not long, but enough to measure. Yes? Mr. Wolfe is aware that Miss Evelyn Drew left your table 3 nights ago and did not return. That he will call on you tomorrow morning to discuss the matter. Another pause. Shorter. Miss Drew had an urgent engagement. So I've heard, I said. Mr. Wolfe prefers to hear things himself. I am not in the habit of entertaining detectives. Mr. Wolfe is not in the habit of being refused. A breath. Then, very well. 11 o'clock. Make it 10. Mr. Wolfe rises early. A hint of something entered his voice then, not quite irritation, not quite amusement. 10 then. Good night, Mr. Kelm. I hung up. Well, Wolfe said. He didn't like it, I said. But he didn't refuse. There was a moment when he thought about it. Fear? Not exactly. Calculation. Good, Wolfe said. We will give him something to calculate. I leaned back and looked at the ceiling. You know, if I were a betting man, I'd say we're being invited. Of course, Wolfe said. The question is to what? Mourning in the brownstone has rules, and breaking them is a good way to get yourself evicted, if not physically, then morally. Wolfe spent his 2 hours with the orchids. Fritz conducted breakfast with quiet authority, and I made notes while pretending not to be impatient. Clara Vane came down a little after 9, composed in a way that suggested she had slept lightly but refused to admit it. Fritz gave her coffee that could have restored lesser people to life, and she accepted it like someone who had learned to accept help without asking for it. Wolfe came down at 11 minutes past 11, exactly as he always does, because consistency is his favorite argument. Miss Vane, he said, taking his place. We will proceed with reconstruction. I had my notebook ready. Let's start with the table, I said. Shape, seating, who sat where. It was oval, she said. 8 places. Mr. Kelm at the head, facing the door. Lydia Kelm at the opposite end. I was on Mr. Kelm's right. Miss Drew was on his left. Mr. Hest sat beside me. Mr. Rourke beside Miss Drew. Dr. Ives was between Lydia and Rourke. Servants? I asked. 2. A butler and a maid. They moved quietly. Course sequence. Soup, fish, roast, dessert. Conversation? General at first. Art, exhibitions, a new gallery opening. Mr. Rourke made a remark about authenticity that offended no one because it meant nothing. Doctor. Ives asked me about my brother. What did he ask? Whether my brother had been prone to sudden decisions. And you said? I said no. Reaction. He smiled as if I had confirmed something. Wolfe made a small sound. Continue. Mr. Hest spoke to me about contracts. He suggested I might wish to re-enter the gallery business under different arrangements. Mr. Kelm watched Miss Drew more than he spoke to her. Lydia Kelm said very little, but when she did, the conversation adjusted around it. Adjusted how? I said. As if she had corrected a mistake no one else had noticed. Time of the note? I asked. During the fish course. Mr. Kelm folded it and passed it beneath his napkin. Miss Drew read it, then looked at him. He nodded very slightly. She excused herself. Words? Wolfe asked. She said, if you'll excuse me. Nothing more. No explanation offered by Mr. Kelm at that moment? No. Did anyone comment? I said. Mr. Rourke said something about timing. It was meant as a joke. No one laughed. And no one followed her, I said. No. I tapped the pencil against the page. All right, let's slow it down. She reads the note, looks at Kelm. He nods. That's permission, not surprise. So whatever was in the note wasn't news to him. Agreed, Wolfe said. Could have been prearranged, I said, or at least anticipated. Clara Vane nodded. Yes. After she leaves, I said. What does Kelm do? He continues eating. Then after perhaps a minute, he says she has been called away. Phone call? I asked. No one came in. So he lies without evidence, I said. That takes nerve. Or practice, Wolfe said. Did Lydia react? I asked. She looked at him, just for a second, then she looked at her plate. Rourke? He drank. Ives? He watched me. I made a note and closed the book. All right, that's our dinner. Wolfe nodded. It will suffice for now. Archie, we will proceed to Mr. Kelm. Clara Vane stood. I'll come with you. No, Wolfe said. She stiffened. I have a right. You have an interest, Wolfe corrected. You do not have a right to jeopardize the inquiry. Your presence will alter his responses. You will remain here. She held his gaze, then looked at me. I shrugged. He's right. Don't tell him I said that. She sat down again, reluctantly. Very well, she said. But you will tell me everything. Selective honesty is my specialty, I said. Wolfe rose. Archie. We took a cab, because Wolfe does not walk unless compelled by disaster, and arrived at East 63rd 5 minutes before 10. The house was narrow, elegant, and expensive in a way that announces itself without shouting. A uniformed man admitted us without question, which meant we had been expected. Julian Kelm received us in a room that had been arranged to suggest taste and achieved control. He was in his 40s, well-dressed, with a face that had decided early to be agreeable and had never revised the plan. His eyes were the only part of him that resisted the arrangement. Mr. Wolfe, he said, Mr. Goodwin, I trust you found the place without difficulty. Your address is not obscure, Wolfe said, settling himself as if the chair had been designed for him. We will not waste time. Miss Evelyn Drew left your table 3 nights ago and has not been seen since. Explain. Kelm smiled faintly. Miss Drew had an urgent matter to attend to. You have said that. It is insufficient. It is accurate. Accuracy without detail is evasion. Kelm's smile thinned. I am not obliged to satisfy your curiosity. No, Wolfe said, but you may find it prudent. A pause. Then Kelm said, Miss Drew received a message. She chose to leave. That is all. From whom? I asked. I do not know. You passed the note, I said. Yes. Who gave it to you? It was placed by my plate. By whom? I did not see. I let that sit for a moment. Convenient. Possible, Kelm said. Everything is possible, Wolfe said. We concern ourselves with probability. Mr. Hest advised Miss Vane to forget the incident. He is now dead. Does that interest you? Kelm's eyes flickered. Mr. Hest's death was unfortunate. That is not an answer, Wolfe said. It is the only one I have. Wolfe leaned forward a fraction. Mr. Kelm, you host a dinner. A guest departs under circumstances you cannot explain. Another guest attempts to suppress inquiry and dies. A third is threatened. You expect me to accept coincidence? I expect you to accept that you have no authority here. Wolfe's voice did not change. Authority is a function of knowledge. I will acquire it. You may choose whether to assist or obstruct. The latter will be noted. Kelm held his gaze, then looked at me, then back to Wolfe. What do you want? For the moment, Wolfe said. Names, the servants who attended that evening, their movements, and access to the room in which you dined. Kelm hesitated, calculating again. Then he nodded. Very well. As he rang for the butler, I looked around the room and tried to imagine a woman rising from a chair, leaving everything behind and stepping into nothing. It didn't fit, which meant either the picture was wrong or someone had changed the frame. The butler who answered Kelm's summons had the kind of face that had forgotten curiosity and settled for accuracy. He was tall, spare, and carried himself like a man who had decided long ago that invisibility was a professional asset. Mr. Dane, Kelm said, these gentlemen will have questions about the dinner on Tuesday. Dane inclined his head. Yes, sir. Wolfe did not waste a second. You served the table. I supervised, sir. I did not personally serve each course. Who did? Mary Linton assisted. Where is she? In the kitchen. You will send for her after we have spoken, Wolfe said. Describe your movements during the fish course. Dane's eyes did not flicker. I was stationed at the sideboard. I observed the table, ensured proper service, and attended to any requirements. Did you place a note by Mr. Kelm's plate? No, sir. Did you observe anyone else place such a note? No, sir. Did you leave the room? For a brief interval to consult with the kitchen regarding the timing of the roast. How long? Approximately 1 minute, during which the table was unattended. The maid was present, and she was at the far side near Miss Kelm. Could she have approached Mr. Kelm's place setting? It is possible, Dane said. But I did not observe it. Wolfe's eyes rested on him. You did not observe it because you were absent? Yes, sir. Very well. Send for Miss Linton. Dane withdrew without haste. I watched him go and made a small note to myself that men who move like that rarely miss much, even when they claim to. Kelm had resumed his agreeable expression, but it was thinner now, stretched over something that had begun to resist. You see, he said, nothing unusual. On the contrary, Wolfe said. Everything is unusual. We have an event that occurs during the only minute when the senior servant is absent. That is not coincidence. It is opportunity. Opportunity for what? Kelm asked. For intervention, Wolfe said. Whether by design or by chance remains to be seen. Mary Linton came in with less composure than Dane, but more awareness than she would have liked. She was young, with quick eyes and hands that did not know where to rest. Yes, sir, she said. Wolfe inclined his head slightly. You assisted at dinner 3 nights ago. Yes, sir. During the fish course, did you approach Mr. Kelm's place setting? No, sir. Did you place a note there? No, sir. Did you observe anyone else do so? She hesitated. Just a fraction, but enough. Miss Linton, Wolfe said. Hesitation is an answer. It is rarely a useful one. She swallowed. I saw something, sir. Kelm's head turned sharply. What? Wolfe did not look at him. You will address me, Miss Linton. Yes, sir. I was at Miss Kelm's side. Mr. Dane had gone to the kitchen. I saw Dr. Ives lean forward, as if to adjust his napkin, and his hand was near Mr. Kelm's plate. I thought nothing of it at the time. Did he place anything? I did not see, sir. Only the movement. Did anyone else notice? I don't know, sir. After Miss Drew left, did Dr. Ives react? He looked at Miss Vane, she said, glancing at me as if I might stand in for Clara. Then he resumed eating. Did he leave the table at any point? No, sir. Wolfe nodded. You may go. She left more quickly than Dane had, which told me she preferred distance to discipline. Kelm's agreeable expression had been replaced by something closer to irritation. This is absurd, he said. You are building speculation from trivialities. Trivialities, Wolfe said, are the bricks from which structures are built. Mr. Ives will interest me. He is a physician, Kelm said, a respected one. Respectability is not immunity, Wolfe said. Archie. I got the hint. We'll pay him a visit. Kelm stood. You will do no such thing without my consent. Wolfe did not move. Your consent is not required. It is my house, Kelm said. It is Miss Drew's disappearance, Wolfe replied. You may choose to cooperate or you may choose to obstruct. In either case, we will proceed. For a moment I thought Kelm might push it further, but then he stepped back, the calculation returning. Very well, he said. Do as you wish. We shall, Wolfe said, and rose. On the way out, I took a longer look at the dining room. The table was still there, polished and innocent, chairs aligned like obedient witnesses. I walked around it slowly, placing myself where each of them had sat. Kelm at the head, Lydia at the far end, Clara Vane on the right, Drew on the left, Rourke beside her, Ives between Lydia and Rourke, Hest beside Clara. 8 points on an oval, all of them connected by lines we hadn't drawn yet. I stopped at Kelm's place and looked down. If a note had been placed there while Dane was out and Mary was watching Lydia, the only person with access and cover was Ives. That didn't make him guilty, but it made him interesting, which is sometimes the same thing in the early stages. Back in the cab, Wolfe closed his eyes, which meant he was not asleep. "Well?" I said. "Dr. Ives introduced the note," Wolfe said. "Looks that way." "Why?" "Because he wanted Drew to leave." "Or because he wanted Kelm to appear to have sent her away," Wolfe said. "Which is it?" "We do not yet know," Wolfe said, "but we will ask him directly." "Indirectly," Wolfe said. "Direct questions invite prepared answers. Indirect ones invite error." I leaned back. "You think Drew went willingly?" "I think she responded to the note," Wolfe said. "Whether that response was voluntary or compelled is another question. More importantly, what happened after she left the room?" "Hallway, closet, front door," I said. "Or somewhere else." "Or nowhere," Wolfe said. I looked at him. Nowhere. "If the disappearance occurred within the house, the exit may be illusory," Wolfe said. "We must consider the possibility that Miss Drew did not leave by any conventional means." "That's a neat trick," I said, "even for a psychiatrist." Wolfe opened one eye. Neatness is often an indication of artifice. We were halfway back when Saul called again. I took it. "Panzer." "I've been to East 63rd, he said. "Around the block. There's a service entrance in the alley. Used, but not recently. No cameras on that side. Anyone watching?" "Not now, but there were signs of it. Cigarette butts, fresh. 2 brands. Time frame? Last 12 hours. Anyone inside besides Kelm and staff?" "Not that I could see." "Keep at it," I said. When I relayed it, Wolfe nodded once. "We will visit Dr. Ives." "And Clara," I said. "She will be informed," Wolfe said. "And she will be impatient. She's good at that." "So are we," Wolfe said. "Let us see which of us benefits." Clara Vane was exactly as predicted when we got back. Composed on the surface, restless underneath, and waiting in the office with the kind of stillness that isn't still at all. She stood when we entered, not out of politeness, but because she couldn't help it. "Well?" she said. I took off my hat and gave her a look. "You could try asking something easier. Like the meaning of life." Wolfe settled into his chair. "Sit, Miss Vane. We have information, not conclusions." She sat, but barely. "Proceed," Wolfe said to me. I gave it to her straight. "Your butler is efficient and claims he saw nothing. Your maid saw Dr. Ives make a move toward Kelm's plate while the butler was out of the room. That's our best lead on the note. Kelm denies knowing anything useful, which puts him somewhere between cautious and involved. The service entrance in the alley has been used recently. And someone's been watching the place." She listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. When I finished, she said, "Dr. Ives." "Looks like it," I said. "But looking like it and being it are different professions." Wolfe steepled his fingers. "Dr. Ives had both opportunity and proximity. He may have placed the note. That does not establish motive. We must ascertain his." "Then let's go to him," she said. "We will," Wolfe said. "You will not." She leaned forward. "You keep saying that." "And you keep hearing it," Wolfe replied. "Your presence will distort the interaction. Dr. Ives will respond to you as he wishes to be seen. He will respond to me as he cannot avoid being." She held his gaze, then leaned back, the fight postponed but not surrendered. "Fine, but I want to know everything." "You will be informed," Wolfe said. I said, "That's as close as you'll get to a promise." She gave me a look that suggested she was filing that away for future use. We left her with Fritz, who had decided that worry could be addressed with food, and went out again. Dr. Stephen Ives had an office on Madison, the kind of place that tries to look like it understands you before you've said anything. The waiting room was quiet, the furniture expensive in a restrained way, and the receptionist had the practiced calm of someone who deals with other people's crises for a living and keeps her own in a drawer. "Dr. Ives is expecting you," she said, which told me either Kelm had called ahead or Ives liked to be prepared for trouble. He was in his office, standing by the window as if he had been considering the city and had not reached a conclusion. He turned when we entered, smiling in a way that suggested he'd already decided what we were. "Mr. Wolfe," he said. "Mr. Goodwin, this is unexpected." "No," Wolfe said. "It is inevitable." Ives gestured to chairs. "Please." We sat. He remained standing for a moment longer, then took his own seat, folding himself into it with care. "You were present at Mr. Kelm's dinner 3 nights ago," Wolfe said. "I was." "Miss Evelyn Drew left the table and did not return." "Yes." "You placed a note at Mr. Kelm's setting." Ives's smile did not change, but it became more precise. "Did I?" "You had the opportunity," Wolfe said. "A witness observed your movement." "A movement is not an action," Ives said. "Sometimes it is," I said. He glanced at me, then back to Wolfe. "Why would I do such a thing?" "That is what we are asking," Wolfe said. Ives leaned back slightly. "Miss Drew was unsettled that evening. She had been for some time." "Unsettled how?" Wolfe asked. "Emotionally conflicted. She was engaged in a series of decisions that did not align with her stated intentions, such as her engagement to Miss Vane's brother, for example." "And you were aware of this professionally?" Wolfe asked. "I had spoken with him," Ives said. "Once, and with her. Not in a professional capacity." "Did you advise her to leave the table?" "No." "Did you provide her with a reason to leave?" Ives's eyes held Wolfe's. "People provide themselves with reasons. I do not manufacture them." "That is a philosophical position," Wolfe said. "It is not an answer." Ives smiled again, faintly. "Very well. I did not place the note." "Then who did?" I said. "If a note existed," Ives said, "it may have been placed by anyone with access." "During the only minute when the butler was absent," I said, "which narrows the field." "Does it?" Ives asked. "It does for us," I said. Wolfe raised a hand slightly and I shut up. "Dr. Ives," he said, "Miss Drew vanished. Mr. Hest is dead. Miss Vane has been threatened. These are not abstractions. They are events. Your presence at the center of them is not accidental." Ives's expression cooled a degree. "Are you accusing me of something, Mr. Wolfe?" "I am identifying you as a point of interest," Wolfe said. "If you prefer a more formal designation, we can arrange it." A pause. Then Ives said, "Miss Drew came to see me the day before the dinner." That landed. "Why?" Wolfe asked. "She wished to discuss a matter of concern." "What matter?" Ives hesitated, not long, but enough to mark it. She believed she had been misled." "By whom?" I said. "She did not say." "Did she mention Mr. Kelm?" Wolfe asked. "No." "Mr. Hest?" "No." "Miss Vane's brother?" A flicker. "Yes." "Explain." "She believed he had concealed something from her, something significant." "Did she say what?" Wolfe asked. "No." "Did you advise her?" Wolfe said. "I advised her to seek clarity," Ives said, "to confront the source of her concern." "At dinner," I said. "If that is where the source was," Ives said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed slightly. "And the note?" "I have told you," Ives said. "I did not place it." "But you might have wished her to leave," Wolfe said. "I might have wished her to act," Ives said. "There is a difference." Not always, Wolfe said. Silence settled for a moment. Not comfortable, not yet hostile, but moving in that direction. I said, where did she go after she left? Ives looked at me. I do not know. That's the problem, I said. Nobody does. Wolfe rose. We will continue this, Dr. Ives. I suggest you consider your position. My position, Ives said, standing as well, is that of a man who has answered your questions. For now, Wolfe said. We left him there, composed and thoughtful, which is a dangerous combination. In the cab back, I said, he's holding something. Of course, Wolfe said. You think he set it up? I think he influenced it, Wolfe said. Whether he controlled it is another matter. And Drew? Went to seek clarity, Wolfe said, and found something else. Like what? Wolfe closed his eyes. That, he said, is the question that will answer the rest. By the time we got back, the house had settled into that late afternoon quiet that makes every sound count. Clara Vane was in the office again, not pacing this time, but seated, hands folded in a way that suggested she had decided movement would not speed anything up. She looked up when we entered. Well, I hung my hat and took my time about it, partly because I wanted to see how she handled delay and partly because Wolfe prefers his answers to arrive in layers. Dr. Ives is thoughtful, I said, also careful. He denies placing the note, which doesn't mean he didn't, and he admits Miss Drew saw him the day before the dinner. For what? She asked. To talk about being misled, I said. Her eyes sharpened. By whom? He didn't say, but he confirmed she mentioned your brother. She didn't react immediately. Then she said, "Oh, what did he tell her?" He says he advised her to seek clarity, I said. Which is a nice way of saying, go ask questions that might upset people. Wolfe had taken his chair and was watching her with the same attention he gives a problem that has just begun to admit it has edges. Miss Vane, he said, did your brother conceal anything from Miss Drew? She held his gaze. I don't know. That is not an answer, Wolfe said. It's the only honest one I have, she said. He was private about his business affairs. If there was something to conceal, he would have concealed it from me as well. Did he ever mention Mr. Kelm in connection with Miss Drew? Wolfe asked. No. Mr. Hest? He said Hest was useful and untrustworthy. That was his opinion of most lawyers. That is not uncommon, I said. Wolfe ignored me. Did your brother have any dealings with Dr. Ives beyond the single consultation? Not that I know of. Wolfe leaned back slightly. Then we must consider the possibility that Miss Drew discovered something independently and sought confirmation from Dr. Ives. He advised confrontation. At dinner, she was given a note that prompted her to act. The note was likely placed by Dr. Ives, or at least facilitated by him. Why? She said. To direct her, Wolfe said. To control the circumstances of her inquiry. Control, I said. Or observe? Both are forms of influence, Wolfe said. Clara Vane's hands tightened. And then she disappears. Yes, Wolfe said. The question is whether that disappearance was the intended result or a consequence. I said, Saul mentioned the service entrance. If she left through there, then someone could have been waiting. Or someone inside could have ensured she did not leave at all, Wolfe said. Clara Vane stared at him. You think she's still in that house? I think, Wolfe said, that we must not exclude any possibility that has not been disproven. That's not comforting, I said. Comfort is not our objective, Wolfe said. The phone rang. I picked it up. Goodwin. Panzer, Saul said. I've got something. The driver who took the man from outside here to 63rd Larkin, he's remembered something else. The passenger made a call from the cab. To whom? Used a portable. Gave a number. I traced it. It's registered to a private line at Kelm's address. I looked at Wolfe. Our watcher called Kelm from the cab. Timing? Wolfe asked. 7:23, I said. Right after he got in. Wolfe nodded once. Then Kelm was informed of Miss Vane's arrival here within minutes. Clara Vane exhaled slowly. He knew I came to you. Yes, Wolfe said, and he responded with a threat. That doesn't prove he sent it, I said. No, Wolfe agreed, but it establishes communication and intent to influence. Saul's voice came back through the receiver. There's more. I checked on Bernard Hest. The truck that hit him, it belonged to a company that does deliveries for Kelm's gallery. That landed harder. Driver, I said. Claims he didn't see Hest step off the curb. Clean record. No reason to doubt him, unless you have one. Not yet, I said. Keep digging. I hung up and relayed it. Clara Vane's face had gone very still. You're saying Kelm had him killed? I'm saying, I told her, that the truck that killed him works for Kelm. That's not the same thing, but it's not nothing either. Wolfe's eyes were closed again, but I knew he was awake in the way that matters. Mr. Kelm is increasing in significance, he said. He is informed quickly of developments. He is connected to a death that follows an attempt at suppression, and he hosted the event at which Miss Drew vanished. So we go back to him, I said. Yes, Wolfe said, but not immediately. First, we will alter the field. I raised an eyebrow. How? We will invite them, Wolfe said. Who? I said. All of them, Wolfe replied. Mr. Kelm, Miss Kelm, Dr. Ives, Mr. Rourke. They will come here. Clara Vane leaned forward. Why would they? Because I will make it necessary, Wolfe said, and because they will wish to observe one another under controlled conditions. That sounds like a party, I said. It is an examination, Wolfe said. Archie, you will telephone them. You will inform them that I have information regarding Miss Drew that requires their presence. You will not elaborate. And if they refuse, they will not, Wolfe said. Curiosity and fear are reliable motivators. Clara Vane watched him. You're bringing them here? Yes. To do what? To observe, Wolfe said. To listen. To provoke. And to find out what happened to Evelyn Drew, she said. Wolfe opened his eyes and looked at her directly. That is the intention. I went to the phone and started with Kelm. He answered on the second ring, as if he had been waiting for it. Mr. Kelm, I said. Mr. Wolfe requests your presence at his residence this evening. He has information concerning Miss Drew. A pause. Then, what information? The kind that is better delivered in person. Another pause, longer this time. Very well. What time? 8. I will be there. I hung up and moved down the list. Lydia Kelm was brief and cool. Rourke sounded amused, which I didn't trust. Ives accepted with a tone that suggested he had expected something of the sort. When I was done, I turned back to the room. They're coming, I said. Wolfe nodded. Good. Prepare the office. Clara Vane stood slowly. And me? You will be present, Wolfe said. You will say nothing unless addressed. She smiled, but there was no humor in it. I can do that. Then we will see, Wolfe said. Which of them cannot? By 7:30, the office was arranged the way Wolfe likes it when he intends to take the air out of a room without raising his voice. Chairs placed with intention and not comfort. The big desk clear, except for the essentials. The red leather seat opposite him waiting like a confession booth with better upholstery. Clara Vane sat to one side, not hidden but not central, exactly as instructed. She had achieved a kind of stillness that looked effortless and wasn't. I took my place at my desk with a notebook, though I knew I wouldn't need it. Nights like this write themselves. The first to arrive was Martin Rourke. He came in with a coat too light for the weather and a smile that had seen better evenings. "Mr. Wolfe," he said, "I do hope this is worth the inconvenience." "It will be," Wolfe said. Rourke glanced around, taking in the arrangement. Clara Vane, me. "Ah," he said. "An audience." "Participants," I said. "Of course," he said, and took a chair as if he were settling in for a performance. Doctor. Ives came next, punctual and composed. He acknowledged Wolfe, inclined his head to Clara Vane, and chose a seat with a line of sight to everyone. That told me he intended to watch as much as to speak. Lydia Kelm arrived without announcement, as if doors were suggestions she declined to consider. She wore dark clothes and an expression that had been sharpened to a point and left there. She did not greet anyone. She took a seat and folded her hands, and the room adjusted around her without quite admitting it. Julian Kelm was last. He entered with the same controlled ease he had shown in his own house, but there was something under it now, something that had begun to press against the surface. He nodded to Wolfe, glanced at Clara Vane with a flicker that was gone before it settled, and sat. Wolfe let the silence gather. He is good at that. So people will fill it if you give them time, and what they fill it with is rarely what they intended. When he spoke, it was quiet enough that everyone leaned in a fraction. 3 nights ago, he said, Miss Evelyn Drew left a dinner table and did not return. Since then, a man has died, a woman has been threatened, and several of you have found yourselves in proximity to events you may prefer to consider unrelated. I do not share that preference. No one spoke. Wolfe looked at Kelm. Mr. Kelm, you hosted the dinner. A note was placed at your setting and passed to Miss Drew. You claimed ignorance of its origin. I do, Kelm said. You were informed within minutes when Miss Vane came to me, Wolfe continued. You responded with a threat delivered to my door. You will explain that. Kelm's eyes flickered, then steadied. I did no such thing. Wolfe inclined his head. You received a telephone call from a man who had been observing my house. He called from a taxi and reached your private line. Within minutes, a note was delivered here. If you did not send it, you will tell me who did. Kelm's mouth tightened. I received many calls. Do you respond to all of them with anonymous threats? I asked. Of course not. Then this one was special, I said. Lydia Kelm spoke for the first time, her voice low and precise. This is absurd. You are constructing a narrative without evidence. Wolfe turned to her. On the contrary, Miss Kelm, I'm assembling evidence into a narrative. You will find the distinction useful. Rourke chuckled softly. I must say this is more entertaining than most openings. Silence, Wolfe said, not raising his voice, and Rourke stopped. Wolfe shifted his gaze to Dr. Ives. Dr. Ives, you were observed placing your hand near Mr. Kelm's setting during the only interval when the senior servant was absent. Miss Drew left the table immediately after receiving the note. You had seen her the day before and advised her to seek clarity. Did you place the note? Ives met his gaze. No. Then you will explain your movement. I adjusted my napkin, Ives said. Nothing more. That is insufficient, Wolfe said. It is accurate, Ives replied. Accuracy without detail is evasion, Wolfe said. Ives's eyes narrowed slightly. You repeat yourself. Because you repeat your omission, Wolfe said. Ives leaned back. Miss Drew came to me with concerns. I advised her to address them. If she chose to act at dinner, that was her decision. Prompted by a note, Wolfe said. Perhaps, Ives said. I did not write it. Did you arrange for it to be written? Wolfe asked. No. Did you anticipate it? A pause. No. Wolfe let that sit, then turned to Rourke. Mr. Rourke, you observed the table. You drink, but you also watch. What did you see? Rourke smiled thinly. I saw a woman decide she had had enough of polite company and leave. Did you see the note? Wolfe asked. I saw something pass, Rourke said. I did not concern myself with its content. Did you see Dr. Ives move toward Mr. Kelm's place? Wolfe asked. I see many things, Rourke said. I choose which to remember. Choose, Wolfe said. Rourke shrugged. Yes, he moved. Whether he placed anything I couldn't say. Wolfe nodded, then turned to Lydia Kelm. Miss Kelm, you observed your brother and Miss Drew. What did you see? She did not hesitate. I saw a guest behave rudely and a host manage it. Did you see the note? No. Did you see Dr. Ives's movement? Yes. Did you find it unusual? No. Why not? Because people adjust napkins, she said. Wolfe regarded her. And place notes? Her eyes did not shift. If they choose. Wolfe turned back to Kellam. Mr. Kellam, your servant observed Dr. Ives's hand near your setting. Your sister observed the same. Mr. Rourke confirms movement. You deny knowledge. Dr. Ives denies action. We have a note without an author and a disappearance without a path. We will correct both deficiencies. Kelm's control tightened. You are wasting time. No, Wolfe said. I'm spending it. He leaned forward slightly, and the room followed him whether it wanted to or not. Miss Drew did not leave that house by the front door, he said. She did not take her wrap. She did not collect her belongings. She responded to a prompt and moved toward its source. That source was not outside. It was within. Silence, heavier now. You have a service entrance, Wolfe continued. Used recently, observed by my associate. You have a household that can provide cover for movement. You have a guest who was directed to seek clarity and a note that directed her to act. Therefore, Miss Drew was led from the table to another part of the house. And then, Rourke said softly. And then, Wolfe said, something occurred that prevented her return. Clara Vane's hands tightened in her lap. No one looked at her, but everyone knew she was there. Wolfe's gaze moved across them, one by one. The question is not whether one of you knows what happened. No, the question is which of you believes you can conceal it. No one spoke. Wolfe leaned back. We will continue. And the way he said it made it clear that continuing was not optional. No one moved. It wasn't that they were stunned. It was that each of them was measuring how much had already been said and how much might still be withheld. Wolfe let the silence stretch until it had weight. Then he spoke again. Miss Drew did not vanish, he said. She was removed. Rourke exhaled through his nose. That's a distinction without comfort. It is a distinction with consequence, Wolfe said. A disappearance invites speculation. A removal implies agency. Kellam shifted in his chair. You are making assertions. I am making deductions, Wolfe replied. You will listen. Kellam opened his mouth, then closed it. That was new. Wolfe turned his head slightly toward me. Archie. I understood. Saul confirmed the service entrance has been used recently, I said. Cigarette butts, 2 brands, one likely a watcher, one likely a participant. The alley gives access without observation from the street. If someone wanted to move a person out or into without attracting attention, that would be the route. Or, Wolfe said, to move a person within the house without using the main corridor. Dr. Ives's gaze sharpened. You are suggesting a hidden passage. I am suggesting, Wolfe said, that houses designed for privacy often include conveniences for avoiding it. Mr. Kelm, your house is not new. It has been altered. Kelm's expression hardened, like many houses. Indeed, Wolfe said, but including the addition of a secondary stair connecting the service level to the rooms above, accessible from the dining room corridor. Lydia Kelm's eyes flickered. It was small, but it was there. Wolfe saw it. Thank you, Miss Kelm. She said nothing. You knew, Wolfe said. Of course you knew. You manage the household. You know its movements better than anyone. That proves nothing, she said. It proves access, Wolfe replied. Miss Drew leaves the table. She's directed by note or expectation to the corridor. From there, she may be guided to the service stair. Out of sight, out of hearing. Guided by whom? Rourke asked. Wolfe turned to Dr. Ives. By someone she trusted sufficiently to follow, or feared sufficiently to obey. Ives's voice was calm. You are constructing motives from air. No, Wolfe said. From sequence. Or you saw her the day before. You advised confrontation. At dinner, a note appears at the only moment when the room is vulnerable. She leaves. You do not follow. No one does. That is not indifference. That is expectation. Ives held his gaze. Expectation of what? Of outcome, Wolfe said. A beat. Clara Vane spoke, her voice controlled but tight. What happened to her? Wolfe did not look at her. She encountered the truth she sought. And, she said. And, Wolfe said, the truth was not benign. Rourke shifted. You're going to have to do better than that. I will, Wolfe said. Mr. Kellam, your enterprise involves acquisition. Of art, of influence, of people. You rely on discretion. Mr. Hest managed the legal aspects. Dr. Ives managed the psychological ones. Together, you created a system in which individuals could be persuaded, as redirected, or silenced. That is an outrageous accusation, Kellam said. It is an accurate description, Wolfe replied. Miss Drew discovered something within that system. Something involving Miss Vane's brother. Clara Vane inhaled sharply. Wolfe continued. Her engagement ended because she learned that your brother's investment in Mr. Kellam's exhibition was not merely financial. He had been used to channel funds illicitly. Clara Vane stared at him. No. Yes, Wolfe said. He discovered it too late. He attempted to correct it. He failed. He left a note indicating an error he could not repair. That error was his participation in a scheme he did not fully understand. Kellam's face had gone pale under its control. You have no proof. I have inference, Wolfe said, and I have corroboration pending. I said, and Hest tried to shut her up. Then he got hit by a truck that works for you. Kellam snapped, that is coincidence. Possibly, Wolfe said, but unlikely. He turned to Ives. Miss Drew came to you. She suspected. You confirmed enough to compel action. You advised confrontation. At dinner, she was given a prompt. She left. She was intercepted. Ives' hands were still, but too still. By whom? By you, Wolfe said. The room tightened. Ives did not move. No. Yes, Wolfe said. You placed the note. You created the opportunity. You followed her through the service corridor. You intended to manage the confrontation privately, to control the outcome. And failed, Rourke said. Partially, Wolfe said. Because someone else intervened. All eyes went to Lydia Kelm. She did not flinch. You are mistaken. Wolfe's voice was quiet. You knew of the scheme. You managed the house, the movements, the access. You saw the pattern. You understood the risk. When Miss Drew left the table, you anticipated where she would go. You followed. No, she said. Yes, Wolfe said. You confronted her and Dr. Ives. There was an argument. Miss Drew threatened exposure. Dr. Ives attempted to contain it. You chose resolution. Clara Vane's voice broke. What did you do? Lydia Kelm looked at her, and for the first time there was something in her expression that was not control. I ended it, she said. The words sat in the room like something physical. Rourke whispered, Good God! Kelm surged to his feet. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly, Wolfe said. Miss Drew is dead. Her body was removed through the service entrance. The watcher in the alley was there to ensure no interruption. Mr. Hest attempted to manage the aftermath and was eliminated when he became a liability. That's a lie, Kelm said, but it lacked force. Ives spoke low. You're overreaching. No, Wolfe said. I am concluding. You facilitated the note. You intended control. You lost it. Miss Kelm acted. You did not report it. You assisted in concealment. Silence again, but different now. Clara Vane rose slowly. Where is she? No one answered. Wolfe looked at Lydia Kelm. You will tell her. For a moment it seemed she would refuse. Then something shifted. In the cellar, she said, behind the wine racks. Clara Vane closed her eyes. I moved to the phone and called the police. Wolfe sat back, his part done. When I hung up, the room had changed. Kelm had sunk back into his chair. Ives stared at the floor as if it had betrayed him. Rourke looked older. Lydia Kelm sat as she had before, but whatever held her there had cracked. Clara Vane stood very straight. Thank you, she said to Wolfe. He inclined his head. It was necessary. The sirens came soon after, not loud at first, then closer. Wolfe closed his eyes. Archie, he said, when this is concluded, remind Fritz that I have been delayed. Dinner will be late. I looked at him. That's your takeaway? It is my routine, he said. I nodded. And the rest? Wolfe opened one eye. The rest is human folly, he said. It is abundant and rarely original. Clara Vane let out a breath that might have been a laugh if it hadn't been so close to something else. When the police arrived, the house would fill with voices and movement and the kind of truth that comes with paperwork. But for a moment longer, in the brownstone, it was quiet again. And that, for Wolfe, was always the point. The police did not arrive quietly, and they did not leave quickly. By the time the last of them had finished asking questions that had already been answered, and writing things down that would be read later by people who had not been present, the brownstone had absorbed the disturbance and begun to return to itself. Clara Vane had gone with them. Not because she had to, but because there are moments when absence is a kind of evasion, and she was not the type to choose it. She paused at the door before leaving, turned once toward Wolfe, and inclined her head. There were things in that gesture that would not fit into words, so she did not try. As Wolfe inclined his head in return, that was sufficient. When the door closed behind her, Fritz appeared as if summoned by a principle rather than a bell. Dinner, he said, in a tone that made it clear the word contained both accusation and forgiveness. Proceed, Wolfe said. We went to the dining room. The table was set as it should be, the food arranged with the same care that had been given on nights when nothing had been resolved and everything remained uncertain. Wolfe took his place, adjusted his napkin, and began. For a while there was only the business of eating. It was not silence, it was the absence of unnecessary sound. I let it go, because Wolfe prefers to let conclusions settle before he disturbs them with commentary. When he finally spoke, it was without looking up. Miss Vane's brother, he said. He had made an error he could not repair. That was his conclusion. It was incorrect. I took a sip of wine. He's dead. That limits his options. It limits his actions, Wolfe said. It does not limit the interpretation of them. He participated in a scheme he did not fully understand. When he discovered its nature, he attempted to correct it. He failed. He chose a final act that he believed would prevent further harm. And did it? I asked. No, Wolfe said. It merely altered the sequence of events. Miss Drew continued the inquiry. Dr. Ives attempted to control it. Miss Kelm resolved it. Efficient, I said. Crude, Wolfe corrected. Efficiency implies elegance. There was none. I nodded. You had them pegged early. I had them positioned, Wolfe said. Pegging is imprecise. Doctor, Ives's involvement was indicated by opportunity and by his prior contact with Miss Drew. Mr. Kelms by his communication and by his association with Mr. Hest. Miss Kelms by her knowledge of the house and her reaction when I mentioned its alterations. And Rourke, I said. Peripheral, Wolfe said. He observes, but does not act. Such individuals are useful, but rarely central. I leaned back. And the note. A device, Wolfe said. Its authorship was less important than its function. It created movement at a precise moment. That was its purpose. And the watcher? I asked. Confirmation, Wolfe said. Mr. Kelm ensured he was informed. He reacted predictably. By threatening Clara, I said. By attempting to influence her behavior, Wolfe said. The threat was merely the instrument. I watched him for a moment. You know, so most people would have started with the body. Most people, Wolfe said, are impatient. The body is a conclusion. I prefer premises. I grinned. And dinner. That is not a preference, Wolfe said. It is a necessity. We finished the main course. Fritz brought the final dish, and Wolfe gave it the attention it deserved. Outside, the city had resumed its ordinary noise, which is never ordinary until it stops. When the plates were cleared and coffee was served, I said, "You think Clara will be all right?" Wolfe considered that, which meant he did not dismiss it as irrelevant. "She will be as she is," he said. "She has obtained the information she sought. What she does with it will depend on her character." "And her character," I asked. "Is sufficient," Wolfe said. "That's high praise," I said. "It is accurate," Wolfe replied. I sipped my coffee. "You didn't tell her everything." "I told her what was necessary," Wolfe said. "There is a distinction." "Between truth and completeness," I said. "Between utility and indulgence," Wolfe corrected. "Details that do not serve a purpose are distractions." "Some people like distractions," I said. "Some people," Wolfe said, "lack discipline." I let that go. He was in one of his moods where philosophy sits closer to the surface. "Human folly," I said. "You mentioned it?" "Yes," Wolfe said. "Care to expand?" He set down his cup and looked at me, not impatiently, but as if considering whether the question deserved the effort. "People believe," he said, "that their actions are unique, that their motives are singular, that their circumstances justify deviations from reason. They are mistaken. The patterns are consistent. Ambition, fear, desire for control, these recur. The variations are superficial." "And the consequences?" I asked. "Are similarly consistent," Wolfe said. "Errors compound. Attempts to conceal them create further errors. Eventually the structure collapses." "Like Kelm's operation," I said. "Precisely," Wolfe said. "It depended on discretion and control. It was undone by inquiry and interference." "Clara," I said. "And Miss Drew," Wolfe said. "She sought clarity. She obtained it at a cost." I nodded. "You don't sound surprised." "I'm rarely surprised by outcomes," Wolfe said, "only by the particular arrangements that produce them." I finished my coffee and stood. "Well, that's one more arrangement for the collection." Wolfe closed his eyes. "Indeed." I looked around the room, the desk, the chairs, or the globe that never seemed to move unless someone pushed it. Everything was back where it belonged. The disturbance had come and gone, leaving its mark where it mattered and nowhere else. As I turned to go, I said, "You know, if she hadn't come here, it might have stayed buried." Wolfe did not open his eyes. "Nothing stays buried indefinitely," he said. "It merely waits for excavation." I paused at the door. "And we're in the excavation business." "We are in the business of observation," Wolfe said. "Excavation is a consequence." I nodded, even though he wasn't looking. "Good night, Wolfe." "Good night, Archie." Upstairs, the house settled into its own silence again. Downstairs, the last of the day's questions had been answered, or at least arranged in a way that satisfied the only man in the room who required satisfaction. As for the rest of us, we made do with what we had, which was more than we'd had before and less than we might have wanted. But that, in Wolfe's world, was usually enough.